The second type of tissue is muscle tissue. All right, and there's 3 types of muscle tissue. The first type, pictured here, this is called skeletal muscle. And just like it sounds, this is the muscle that's attached to your skeleton, your bones. Now, skeletal muscle is voluntary, which means that you have control over it. You can tell these muscles to move or to rest. Skeletal muscle is also striated. So you can see all these little bump looking things in there. Those are striations in the muscle. One muscle cell can have multiple nuclei. Okay, so there's multiple nuclei in one muscle cell. The second class of muscle cell is cardiac. Cardiac muscle is associated with your heart. It's found only in the heart. This muscle is involuntary. You don't have any control over your heart. You can't tell it to beat faster or slow down. It's automatic. This type of muscle is also striated. You can see these striations when you look at it under the microscope. Cardiac muscle is also highly branched. You can see these branches. The third class of muscle is smooth muscle. Smooth muscle can be found in places such as your stomach. That's one place you can find smooth muscle. You can also find smooth muscle lining in your blood vessels. Smooth muscle, just like it sounds, it's not striated. It's smooth. And just like cardiac, you don't have any control over your smooth muscle. It's involuntary. You can't tell your stomach to digest food faster. It's all automatic. You don't have control over it. So that is the muscle tissue. The third class of tissue is nervous tissue. There are 2 types of cells that make up nervous tissue. Neurons is one type, and the second type is neuroglia. Neuroglia, their job is to nourish and surround parts of the neurons. So for example, this picture here shows a neuron. These little purple things that are surrounding parts of the neuron, these are Schwann cells, which are a type of neuroglia. Now neurons, they have 3 parts. There's 3 parts to a neuron. The first part is the cell body, which is this part right here. The cell body is where you find the nucleus. So the nucleus is in the cell body. That's the first part of a neuron, the cell body. The second part of a neuron is a dendrite. Dendrites are these star-looking, branchy-looking things that are branched off of the cell body. The job of the dendrite is it's going to collect the signal. It collects a stimuli. Maybe like when you touch a hot oven and you feel the heat, the dendrite is going to suck it up. Or when you see something with your eye, all right, the stimuli that comes in, that goes through the dendrite. So the dendrite collects the stimuli. The impulse travels from the dendrite through the cell body, and then it enters the third part of the neuron, which is the axon. The axon carries that signal through the long part of the neuron here to the end. Okay, so the axon carries that stimuli away from the cell body, and maybe then to either another neuron or maybe to a muscle. And we're going to talk more about the neurons when we talk about the nervous system. The fourth and final class of tissues are the epithelial tissue or the epithelium. Now, there's a few different ways to classify epithelium. The first way to classify is by the shape of the cells. And there's 3 different shapes of epithelium. There's 3 types. The first type is called squamous epithelium. This shape is flat, like a pancake. So if you see a flat cell, this is a squamous epithelial cell. The second shape you could have is cuboidal, which is a cube-like shape, pictured here. So if you see a cube-like shape, that's cuboidal. And then the third class is columnar, which is a column-like shape, a tall column. Now, when you have epithelial cells, they may also layer. So you might have one of these 3 type cell shapes that layer together. And there's 3 types of layers you could have. The first type is simple. Simple means there's one single layer. One layer of cells. So the cells all touch together. Remember, there's contact inhibition here. But there's just one single layer of these cells. The second type of layer you could have is pseudo-stratified. So pseudo means fake. So what this looks like is it looks like there's many layers. It looks like many layers. But if you really look at it closely, there's actually just one layer. So it looks like there's many layers, but there's really only one. So it's pseudo-stratified. And then the third type of layering you could have is stratified. And this is when there's many layers of the cells that are stacked on top of each other. Okay, so for example, in your skin on the outside of your body, you have epidermis on the outside here. Okay, this is the epidermis. But then you have many, many layers of skin, and then you have the dermis here at the bottom. So your skin is stratified. Let me give you a couple other examples. In your lungs, there's epithelial tissue that's lining your lungs, but it's one layer thick. It's simple, meaning one layer, squamous, flat cells. The reason why you only have one layer of epithelial in your lungs is so that oxygen can easily get in to the lungs so you can breathe. Now, here's another example. In your intestines, you have columnar pseudostratified epithelium. The reason you have these nice tall columnar cells, it makes it easier to absorb nutrients from your food. So depending on where in the body, we have different types of epithelial tissue. Hey, I almost forgot. If you're watching this right now, I want to know. And you got to send me the secret code word of the week so that you can get +2 bonus points on your next test. The secret code word this week is tequila. Tequila. All right, so send me the secret code word tequila and you could get 2 bonus points on your next exam.